Yo guys, for today's video, I'm going to be talking about the booking day for Springleaf Residence. And for those of you that didn't manage to get a unit due to bad queue number, did you actually miss out on a good deal? Whereas on the other end, we have some of the buyers that maybe they got a unit at Springleaf Residence, but they are wondering to themselves, did I overpay for a unit? Did I succumb to the FOMO? So in today's video, I'll be going through all of this in detail. So stay tuned if you want to find out more. Alright, so let's start off with this article from HProp. It says that Guocoland actually sold 92% of the units at Springleaf Residence. I think this is definitely very impressive since it's a mega development. Alright, so the average PSF is 2175. So right now, did you get in at a good price, and also what is considered good? Later on in the video, I'll be going into details on how I actually compare for the different bedroom types, because even though we have the average PSF, I think it's going to be quite generalized if I just throw in whatever PSF, because every different bedroom type, they have a particular PSF range. I think you also can see that from my screenshot, there's a discrepancy from the newspaper article of about 1% plus. So the discrepancy actually came from the bounce out units. So later on, I'll also be touching on the 10 units that bounced out, but they were immediately stepped up lah, okay? I think one thing unique I noticed for Springleaf Residence I think it's very uncharacteristic of Guocoland. I was actually surprised that they never increased price at all for the actual booking day on Saturday, because for Lentor Central, because same developer also, I was involved in it previously, and developer actually increased price I think 3 times on the same day itself. So for Springleaf, right, as I saw the units moving so fast, I was actually surprised that they never increased the price midway. I was like kind of expecting it, but it never increased price. And I heard from my colleagues actually, even for Lentor Mansion, they also kept the same strategy of not increasing price on the booking day itself. So my own guess, okay, this is nothing firm, okay, my own guess is that the reason why Guocoland never increased price for Springleaf Residence, I think first things first, if they are going to be doing the similar strategy for Lentor Mansion, right, it means that they could be very high chance going for Parcel A. And here say they could have already acquired Parcel A. This one 100% not confirmed. I'm just speculating at this point, but it does make sense if Guocoland actually acquired Parcel A, right? And they want to use this strong sales performance for Springleaf Residence to actually able to increase the Parcel A's pricing. Yeah, because you see, bigger land plot, they are able to sell at $2,100 per square feet. What makes you think that the later plot Parcel A with the mixed D and the childcare center, they won't be able to sell at the same price? Because for buyers, if they want this area that's near MRT, there isn't other than Parcel A. My guess is that I really think Guocoland could have gotten Parcel A. This one we don't know. Yeah, but if you have a very strong performance here, I would say for other developers, even if you're looking at Parcel A, I think the confidence in the consumers is a lot more. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to be talking about some of the things that people might have missed out on the booking day for Springleaf itself. And these are the things that I already have highlighted to my buyers continuously before and during the booking day itself to make sure they know and fully aware of what kind of units they're buying. Okay, so the first thing that was very obvious to me was actually the Parapet balcony. So these are for the SLE facing units. And actually, if you look closer on the units with the Parapet balcony or closer towards the SLE, right, I really think Guocoland is very, very smart, because you see, for example, we talk about the 3-bedroom plus, which is the 1000 square feet and above one, stack 11, 19 and 22, right? These 3 have the Parapet balcony. So they are the 1023 square feet unit types. But for stack 7, because it is the further setback from the SLE, so it doesn't have the Parapet balcony, right, but the normal grills, developer actually put the stack 7 as a slightly bigger unit at 1076 square feet. But the other 3 because maybe they have slightly worse characteristics, like in terms of the balcony, right, then developer actually put the units there smaller. So I think in terms of total quantum, stack 7 might have been a little bit more, but I think for the units that move, stack 27 actually moved the last, I think, because for the west end and also a bit of SLE facing. Other than that, you can see for the other stacks, right, like the 3-bedders, the 818 square feet, the 926 square feet, they also all use a similar method. And even the 2-bed 1-bath, they practically have no 2-bed 1-bath that is inside one other than stack 32. The rest of the 2-bed 1-bath, they are all facing outside, because they know that it will still sell based on quantum despite having that balcony or not. Yeah, so I think developer really have done a very good job on the pricing strategy, because you see all the 2-bed 2-bath I think only got one 4-bedder, which is stack 14, is facing the landed side one, but they have the parapet balcony. Other than that, all the other 4-bedders are the normal window grills, I mean the metal grills, and on top of that, all the 2-bed 2-bath, they also have the normal grills. So definitely they will be charging a higher premium for all the other stacks. Yeah, so this is just something to take note for yourself. So the second part that you might have missed out is the anti-bird collision decal. Okay, so this one will be for all blocks from level 1 to level 11. And if you can see at the show flat model there, they have already done this example. And of course, I've already told my buyers about it. But I think in the end, this is not such a deal breaker as compared to the parapet balcony. This is my own personal opinion because I think the decal itself, you kind of will get used to it. But for the parapet balcony, right, there is also the chance of the acoustic panels. Yeah, so with these two factors combined, I feel like the natural light factor might have been a bigger deal breaker as compared to this anti-bird collision decal. So these are the things that to take note for before we actually enter the booking day itself for my clients. So like every other new launch, how is Springleaf Residence complete without a couple of dropout units? Alright, so over here, even with overwhelming response for Springleaf Residence, we still have 10 units being dropped out, okay? So 6 of them coming from the 2 bedrooms, 2 from the 3 bedrooms, and 2 from the 4 bedrooms. And from what I heard, all these units, most of them already re-balloted out on Sunday itself. For the 2-bedders, I heard, I think despite having only 6 units, right, I think there was 200 to 300 buyers all balloting for the same 6 units. So it was quite crazy. Yeah, I think overall, most of the units already all gone. But for the post-launch units, there's still a couple of them. So for those of you after my video and you want to do an analysis for yourself, right, you can feel free to reach out to me at 84849302. I think for some of them, if you look closer into the numbers, there is still some opportunity. But of course, you also need to compare the options of what's coming up also. Yeah, so you can feel free to reach out to me. Looking forward to hear from you guys. Okay, so for this next part, I'm going to be talking about Springleaf Residence VVIP and priority booking. So for this one, right, I think most of you already know under loyalty purchase, VIP purchase, and also multiple purchase, you get to buy the units on Friday itself. And I think, to be honest, for the loyalty purchase, right, I really feel like the criteria is quite relaxed because some of them are ex-owners, current owners, and current residential tenant. For the tenant one, I really think it's quite a wide range. I don't know why the developers, they want to open up so wide. And also, this can be up to a 1-tier linkage, so it can form from the spouse, parents, siblings, and children. Yeah, so I really think this one, you can leave in the comment section if you think that this was a good play on their end. I really feel that based on the number of checks, actually they didn't have to open up so wide. Yeah, but I think they just wanted their developments to do well on the booking day itself so that they will still be able to continue to sell their future projects. So I think this one really depends on their strategy. But overall, I just feel like because of them doing this, you really feel like if you don't have the priority or the VVIP, right, it's gonna be quite hard to get a unit for the Guocoland projects. And for this, one of my clients also managed to get the 1-tier linkage for the loyalty purchase for because her brother is staying at one of the projects. Yeah, with that, then they're still entitled to another 1% discount. So for Guocoland projects, there's a few coming up. If you are trying to aim for those projects, then you know what to do because I don't think they're gonna be changing too much from this unless it's the Hong Leong side one. Yeah, so do take note, if you're aiming purely for the Guocoland one, you can still maybe try something like this. Okay, so other than that, I think one good thing that they still protected the main priority, the main balloting one for Saturday queue, right, is that they actually open up only a couple of stacks. So for example, for the 15 August VIP sales, right, they open up, I think, stack 9, 24 for the 2-bed 1-bath, and then 2-bed 2-bath 1, 21, 33, 36. Then for the 3-bedders, 10, 12, 25, 3-bed standard 2, 26, 31, 3-bed premium 7, 19, 4-bed 3, 15, 22, 39, and 5-bedders 30, 34, and 38. So you can see for a lot of the better stacks, right, they actually never release everything. I think they really wanted to give the public queue a chance because imagine I think for example my client was aiming for the 904 square feet unit. So this one only had 2 stacks Yeah, but developer, they only released stack 2 for the booking day itself. So they still save the stack 14 for the Saturday one. And very obvious, stack 14, right, when I saw the actual day booking, it was the fastest one moving out of all the 3-bedroom stacks. Yeah, so they really know which one will still sell. Yeah, I think in the end, they still did a good job. I think this one's still quite fair. But overall, the take-up rate for the VVIP was very strong. Okay, so the VVIP one, right, after all the bulk purchase and all the 4 and 5 bedder and all the agent purchase all concluded, right, we actually had a very strong 37% sold, and this was 356 units already sold before the Saturday main queue. Yeah, I think so. Just to take note for the upcoming launches, if you're really aiming for those Guocoland one, this is something that maybe you need to prioritize because you know already 30+% sold, and then if you are relying on the normal queue alone, it's gonna be really all boils down to luck. Okay, so you can see here for the 2 bedders, we had 20 units sold out of 117. 2 bedroom standard, 75 units sold out of 215. I won't touch too much on the conserve building because that one quite a small portion of it. And then now for the 3-bedroom basic, right, we have 39 units sold out of the 164 units available. 3-bedroom standard, 43 out of 121. And then for the 4 bedders, we had 129 units sold out of the 138. For the 4 bedders, right, it was really very crazy because the 4 bedders was 4:30 p.m. onwards, but the number of people there for the 4 bedders and the 5 bedders, it was a lot of people, and I really didn't expect the 4 bedders take-up rate to be so strong. And on top of that, the 5 bedders also was quite surprising because almost half of it already sold on the Friday itself. So 31 out of the 71 units was sold. Yeah, so overall this was the conclusion for the Friday itself. And then you can see this is the heat map over here lah. You can kind of see where the take-up rate was very strong for and which one was not so popular. But in the end, if you know 93% sold on the overall list, right, then you know actually all this is just a buyer preference and which one is slightly better over than the rest. But overall, it's still a very strong development. Okay, so for the next part, I'll be sharing on how I actually prepare my clients for the booking day using price simulation for Springleaf Residence. Okay, so over here you can see actually I've done the price simulation for Springleaf for this particular layout type from ground floor all the way to the top floor, and actually how I derive all this per floor jump and also at where the floor jumps will actually occur, right? I studied using Lentor Mansion as a guide because in the end they are both the same developers, so very likely the pricing strategy will be very similar. So I did a very deep analysis on the Lentor Mansion, and you can see actually some of the units for Lentor Mansion, their ground floor is actually more expensive than some of the 5th floor, 6th floor units. Yeah, so other than that, that's the main difference here. I also will compare, right, for the different 3-bedroom sizes and also the facings as well. So you can see here, I've done up the entire Lentor Mansion. What is the premium, right, for the different facing and stacks? So this one will kind of give a gauge, right, for my buyers on what is the developer's potential strategy. And just to give you a summary, using Lentor Mansion, right, generally the premium facing like towards the Hillock Park or the inwards pool facing one, right, it's not going to be that big gap from the maybe the road facing all this. Yeah, so that's why in the end I will tell my clients, actually if you can get the better facing, try to go for the better one instead of the SLE facing. And last but not least, I will also want to talk about the expressway facing versus the road facing or the more premium facing, because in the end, how do we determine, right, how much to actually pay for, like for the forest facing versus the SLE facing one. So with that, right, I've actually done up resale comparison. So this one is a newly TOP project called Penrose. So for Penrose, this one is a very recent project. One side is facing towards the PIE, and then we have one side is also facing the more quiet Sims Drive area, and inside we also have the pool facing units. So just from this example, right, we can already see what is the accepted PSF gap for the PIE facing units versus those that is facing the road. So I'm not even talking about those facing the swimming pool. Okay, so you can see for this 12-17, right, this 936 square feet unit, all the transactions I've taken is from the past 6 months. So these are all very recent transactions and reflective of what the market is actually looking at. Okay, so you can see this is at 1.995 million, 2130 PSF. And then the other one at stack 11, 2119 PSF. And then now if we look at the Sims Drive one, despite it being a bigger layout, right, you can see that the PSF is at 2293 and 2227. So with this information, my buyers already knew that even if the expressway facing versus another road facing layout, right, the difference in PSF is about 100 plus already. So with that in mind, my buyers already know, oh, if the PSF gap is less than 100, I should go for the better facing one lah. At least this is what we see in the resale market. And of course, for the different bedroom types like the 4-bedders, 2-bedders, all this, I've already done the detailed analysis. So I'm just sharing with you what I've prepared my clients the day before the booking day, so that they are completely in control of what to go for, because some of them are also investors, my buyers. So for example, if for the SLE facing, we really see a very big price gap in terms of like compared to the premium facing, right, then maybe it's better to still go for the SLE facing to protect my buyers buffer, because this is what we see in the resale market. But of course, after analyzing what we see at Lentor Mansion, I already told my buyers very likely they won't price the premium so much more over the worst facing stacks. So that's why our strategy was already quite clear to be aiming for the more premium stacks. Okay, so for the next part, I'm going to be going in deeper, right, on actually how I compare Springleaf Residence with nearby projects such as Lentor Mansion and Lentor Central. And this is how I actually analyze by the different bedroom types and the layouts. And then from here, you can see how I actually guide my clients towards the booking day itself. Alright, so to start things off, I'm going to be talking briefly about this one bedroom. So this one bedroom is a 388 square feet type. This one is at the Conserve building. My own personal opinion, I wouldn't think this is a good buy if you want to exit in the future. But if you are looking to rent it out or you want to buy for own stay, maybe because of some of them they're buying like the alumni, the sentimental value, all this, I think it's totally okay. But I think for exit wise, it's going to be quite difficult because first of all, this is going to be facing towards the lawn. This is also the running track there. So it's going to be very heavy in terms of activity. Yeah, and secondly, I think for this price range, you could have easily gotten maybe other bedroom types for rental income also. So for my clients, I didn't advise them for this one bedder lah. So that is for conclusion for the one bedders. Alright, so for the exciting part here, we are going to be talking about the 527 square feet 2-bed 1-bath analysis. So just to give you an overview, right, of how I actually compare, I'll be taking the ground floor, mid floor and top floor transacted units. So you can see here, these are all the prices transacted for the 527 square feet one lah. And then you can see some of them, why is it like 13th floor, 18th floor, 12th floor? Because my basis of comparison is actually using 13th floor, but for some of the units, they are already sold off on the VVIP day, and for that one they never released the full price, so it's a bit hard to get a pricing on that. Yeah, but just work with what I have here for the actual Saturday prices. Okay, so now if we take a closer look, right, you can see generally for the 2-bed 1-bath, the PSF starts from about 2000 PSF all the way to 2003 for the more premium stacks. Yeah, but if you see across the different stacks, right, actually the premium for the better facing stacks actually is not that much. So in that case, right, it's more worth it to go for the better facings one. So like for example, stack 9, 16, 17 and 24, actually I will go for the higher floors because you have a lot better views because you clear the trees and then you'll be slightly further away from the SLE lah. Okay, this one is all majority facing towards the SLE side. But for stack 32, right, because it's facing inside, try to go for the lower floor because in the end, if it's a high floor stack 32, right, there is no difference because you are still going to be blocked by the building in front. But whereas for the other stacks, even though they have the SLE facing and the parapet balcony, they are still getting much better views as compared to 32. But the only thing going well for 32 is that it doesn't have the parapet balcony. So for this, we really had to see in the resale market because both different facings they have their own pros and cons. Yeah, for the better facings, they have the SLE and also the parapet balcony. But for stack 32, even though it's facing directly to the other block, it doesn't have the parapet balcony. So of course from here, if you can see the developers, actually they didn't really put a significant price difference over the two different type of balconies. Yeah, so I think for that, if given a choice, I might go for the higher floors for the 527 square feet facing the SLE. But if really lower floor units, right, for all stacks, I will still go for stack 32 because in the end, it doesn't have the parapet balcony. So for the next part for this 2-bed 1-bath, I'm going to be doing a price gap analysis with Lentor Mansion because Lentor Central doesn't have a 2-bed 1-bath. So you can see, right, for Lentor Mansion, the lowest floor unit transacted at 1.137 million, 2157 PSF, and then the highest transacted 1.3 million at 2400, almost 2005 PSF. So just using an average of all the transacted units at Springleaf Residence, right, the PSF averagely is cheaper about $140 for the lower floors, and then the higher floors is about $160 PSF cheaper lah. Yeah, so I think overall there's a very decent buffer from Springleaf Residence versus Lentor Mansion. So definitely if you are looking to exit in the future, this is already has been priced in. Last but not least, for a complete analysis, I'll be looking at the layout comparison for Lentor Mansion 527 versus Springleaf 527. So the main difference here that I really like what Springleaf can offer is that they have a slightly wider living area. You can see for Lentor Mansion is at 2.7 meters, whereas for Springleaf Residence, or even though it's the exact same layout, we are looking at 2.8 meters width. So this 10 cm difference, I think it does make a difference. Other than that, right, generally the layout is very similar. There's really not much difference, so I won't touch too much on that. Okay, for the next part, I'm going to be talking about the 2-bed, 2-baths. So this one is the 646 square feet unit types, okay? So this one has a lot more stacks. I'm not going to read out all of it, but overall, you can see, right, these are the prices transacted for Springleaf Residence 2-bed, 2-bath. And then you can see the ground floor range, we are ranging about 2000, almost 2001 range. Some of it for a better facing, you'll be 2.1, whereas for the mid floors, we are looking at 2.1, almost 2.2 range, and then for the top floors, 2.2s, and some of them even hitting 2.3s for the better facing. And in conclusion, for the facing in terms of the premium, right, it's not going to be that much. So same rule applies. I'm going to be going for the better facing ones because resale market has already proven that gap of about $100 per square feet. So for the stack 36 and 37, a lot of them are higher floors facing forest. I think those are the to go for one because I think in the resale market, this is going to be a very unique selling point. Whereas for stack 1, 4, and 13, you can still try to go for the higher floors because I think once you clear the schools, the conserve school, your view is going to be quite unblocked until the parcel A side. Yeah, so the setback is going to be very far. Whereas for 21, 33, and 40, the recommendation for me will be going for the lower floor because in the end, if you're going to be facing other buildings and then you want to get the pool facing, right, it's the same thing. To me, higher floor or lower floor, no difference. So might as well go for the lower floor so that you have a better entry price in terms of quantum and PSF. And for stack 29 is the full forest and west sun facing, right? So this one, I mean, definitely is going to be hot, but if you only left with this stack, then try to go for the higher floor, so at least you can still get the full forest view lah. Yeah, so generally this is how I would recommend on the booking day itself for my clients for the 2-bed, 2-baths. Okay, so for the next part, I'm going to be doing a price gap analysis for all the 2-bed, 2-baths at Springleaf versus Lentor Central and Lentor Mansion. First up, you can see this 2-bed, 2-bath, 678 square feet at Lentor Central. Lowest transacted at 1.3 quantum, about 2000 PSF, and then the highest is almost 1.7 mil at 2004, 2005 PSF. And when you compare this to what we see at Springleaf Residence, right, actually it was quite surprising because the lower floors is actually transacted $40 per square feet higher than Lentor Central. So, okay, for those of you that bought higher, don't worry. You can, in a moment's time, right, you can see why there's such a big difference. So this problem actually lies in Lentor Central's layout. Okay, so of course in terms of pricing, Lentor Central is superior in this sense, but later when we see the layout types, right, even for the 3-bedders, there's also something similar happening, but don't worry, later on I will share with you more. And you can see for the higher floor units, actually Springleaf units got 180 PSF cheaper. So for the higher floors, right, they have a very big PSF and quantum gap. Okay, so definitely quite a safe buffer for the 2-bed, 2-bath buyers at Springleaf for the high floors one. And then for Lentor Mansion, of course, it's going to be a solid gap also. It's 657 square feet, and this one is at 1.45 million, 2002 PSF for the cheapest one, and then all the way up to 1.5 million at 2004 PSF. So the PSF is about $130 PSF cheaper for the lower floors, and then $100 PSF cheaper for the higher floors. And for the quantum gap, right, you can see for Lentor Central, even though their cheaper units is at 1.3 million range, right? Actually, once it hits, I think level 3 or 4, right, it should be above 1.4 million, and all the way up to the highest floor, you have almost 1.7 million. But you can see for Springleaf, right, even for the higher floors, it's barely crossing 1.5 million. So you are in a very good buffer, especially if you are the higher floors for Springleaf residences. So next up, I'm going to be talking about layout comparisons across these three developments: Springleaf, Lentor Mansion, and Lentor Central. So on the left here, we can see Lentor Mansion is a 657 square feet unit. So for this one, their kitchen, this is a L-shaped kitchen, so it's not fully enclosed, and the balcony is 3 meters width. Whereas for Lentor Central, even though it has an additional 20 plus square feet, right, the kitchen is fully enclosed. But other than that, actually their living room is very lacking because it's at 2.8 meters width only, and this is also a dumbbell layout. So I think for Lentor Central, even though the quantum is cheap for the lower floors, it's actually not a superior layout when compared to Lentor Mansion already. And if you look at Springleaf itself, 646 square feet, right, the kitchen is also L-shaped, but the superior thing is really the living room, right, they're able to keep it at 3.1 meters. I think that one is really a very strong selling point. And on top of that, because they managed to squeeze so many things inside 646, right, they are saving a lot based on quantum. And to be honest, if you compare Lentor Central 678 square feet versus Springleaf one, right, why would you want to pay extra like 30 square feet for like nothing extra? I think the main thing really is the kitchen that is enclosed. But to be honest, I think Springleaf one, you can still try to enclose the kitchen, although it's going to be a bit more tight. But other than that, your living room space is a lot wider. So at least this is what I see happening at the 2-bed 2-bath layout comparison side. You can leave in the comment section which one you feel is better. For me, it's really very impressive to see a 2-bed 2-bath with this kind of width in the living room area. Okay, so next up, I'm going to be talking about the 3-bedroom basic layout type. So this one is 786 and 818 square feet. So for the stacks, there are 5, 8, 12, 20, 25, 28, 10, and 18. So if you can see here, the range, right, is like from 2000 all the way to 2003, some almost 2004. Of course, the 23781 that one's a bit worrying lah, okay? But other than that, right, the facing premium as usual is not going to be as high. So if possible, try to go for the better facing ones. So this is how I would actually rank the facings. Level 5 and stack 5 and 8, try to go for the higher floors, whereas stack 12 and 20, because they are facing inwards, so those are just go for the lower floors will do, don't have to go that high because you're still facing the building. Whereas stack 28, this one is a bit on the fence because on the other hand, it's forest view block, but it is the full west sun. So for me, I don't think it is priced that correctly, because you see, right, from the developer, they actually priced stack 28 the most expensive one simply because it has the forest unblock view. They never even account that it is partial west sun. Yeah, but for me, I think in the resale market, probably it's not going to be that easy to sell. So like I said here, if you're given a choice, you will still go for stack 28 higher floor, because lower floor you will still get the same west sun already, so might as well just get the higher one to get the full unblock view lah. And the other three stacks, 10, 18, and 25, they have the parapet balcony. So if possible, try not to go for those already. But if really you already left with those units, right, then you can still go for stack 10 and 18, because for the higher floors, you can still have the unblocked view, so you can justify the parapet balcony lah. But other than that, actually, like stack 25 doesn't have a lot of things going for them. You see, right, actually why am I nitpicking so much on all this like balcony lah, grill lah, west facing, all this? Because in the end, I think if you want to be able to sell a higher price within your development, I mean, of course, you have to be something more superior than your other neighbors, even within the same development. That's why you can see sometimes certain layouts or certain facing can earn a lot more as compared to your neighbors. So these are the things that I'm doing analysis for lah. It's just to improve your profit margin by that little bit more. But of course, not everyone will, buy according to this lah. Yeah, but I'm just trying to help my clients get the best possible deal. Okay, so right now I'm gonna be doing a price gap analysis for the 3-bedroom compact with Lentor Mansion and Lentor Central. So to start things off, let's take a look at Lentor Mansion first. Seeing the 786 layout, this one 1.7 million at 2001 PSF. The higher range is at 1.9 million 2004 PSF. So the PSF range, right, when you compare with Springleaf Residence, Springleaf actually is 90 PSF cheaper for the lower floors and 70 PSF cheaper for the higher floors. So we are in a very good buffer when compared to Lentor Mansion. And for the 818 square feet one, starting from 1.7 million 2001 PSF all the way to 1.8 million at 2002. So right now, wow, when you suddenly see this Lentor Mansion pricing, right, are you actually worried? Because you see, actually for Springleaf, you're only buying 20 PSF cheaper for the lower floors and also 60 PSF higher for the higher floors. Okay, do take note, Lentor Mansion for the 818 square feet, not all of them go as high as Springleaf Residence. I think for Lentor Mansion, there's two different building heights. One of them is about level 7, level 8, the other one is level 16. So you have to investigate deeper what is the level that you're looking at, okay? And also later I'll share the layout difference. So don't worry about that. And next up, we have Lentor Central. So Lentor Central, you can see this is at 786 square feet for the 2+ study. So this one really was one of the main reasons why, right, I told some of my clients the 786 really can consider, because for Lentor Central, you see their price range at 1.6 million 2000 PSF, right, all the way up to 1.9 million at 2004 PSF. And this is for a 2+ study. Later you can see in the layout when I do the comparison, it's really a very big difference. And if I'm gonna buy a unit, I confirm will buy like the Lentor Mansion one or the Springleaf one. I really won't go for Lentor Central. And just from this one, you can see the PSF cheaper is about 130 PSF cheaper for the lower floors and then 100 PSF cheaper for the higher floors. So when you just do this comparison, it does seem like for the 786 lower floor ones, you should be getting a better deal at Springleaf compared to the higher floors. So this is just from the price gap analysis. Alright, so now I'm gonna be doing a comparison for the layout for the 3-bedroom compact across these 3 developments. And I realized I never do the comparison for the 818 square feet one. I mainly just do for the 786. So for those of you that want a more detailed comparison for the 818 one, you can reach out to me, because I think just now I mentioned the pricing was quite a big gap. Yeah, I think you have to factor in which floor is at lah. Okay, so back to this 786 one. So starting off, we have the Lentor Central 786 square feet, right? You can see this is actually a 2+ study and they have an enclosed kitchen. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if I had the opportunity to like sacrifice some of the kitchen space to have a proper 3-bedroom, right, I definitely will go for that. So for this case, right, I think the 2+ study at Lentor Central already lose out to the Springleaf and Lentor Mansion's 3-bedroom, because I think the study really is not good use of the space, too small already. And on top of that, the width of the living room area is at 2.8 meters. So for Lentor Central, another minus point. So I don't think this is like very superior in terms of the layout. Okay, and this is still a 2+ study. Now moving on to Springleaf's 3-bedroom. So this 786 square feet, right, this is a proper 3-bedroom and this is 3.1 meter width. And you can see the kitchen, although it is not enclosed, this is a L shape lah. So I think you can still try to enclose it, and then after that you put like a dining table right beside it, or you can do kitchen island. Don't really see how you want to play with the reno. Yeah, but overall at least you have a proper 3rd bedroom type. This is a really very efficient layout already. And last but not least, you can see Lentor Mansion adopting a very similar 3-bedroom 786 square feet layout. But the main thing about Lentor Mansion is that it has a 3-meter width. So it is still slightly smaller than Springleaf one. So I think really for Guocoland, I don't know how they managed to squeeze in another 10 cm for the living room area, but they managed to make Springleaf one the widest one out of all the 3 projects here. Yeah, so leave in the comment section which one you feel is a more superior buy in terms of layout and entry price. For me, I still feel like Springleaf does have its own strong points in terms of pricing buffer and the layouts. But I mean, when you compare the A1A1, it might be a different story altogether. Okay, so next up, I'm going to be covering on the 3-bedroom standard. So here is the 904, 926 and 958 square feet layouts. And the stacks are 2, 14, 23, 31 and 26. So you can see for the pricing, right, from the ground floor is around 2050 range, and then for the higher floors you actually hit 2003. Mid floor is about starting 2002 like that. Yeah, so this is the range that you're working with. And then overall, right, despite its different facings, I really still think the premium is not much for the better ones. So for my clients, I will recommend going for the better facing ones. So stack 2 and 14, you should try to go for higher floors for better views. Yeah, but of course, the 904 square feet one was the most popular one. So I mean, that really depends on the queue number and whether you got priority lah. And other than that, stack 31, I would recommend to go for the lower floor because it is still the same facing even if it's a higher floor. So I think lower floor pool facing good enough already. Why I don't recommend 23 and 26? Because it has the parapet balcony. I think maybe for 23, right, it can still get the pocket landed view if it's at the higher floors. To be honest, it's still sandwiched between two blocks, so I really don't think it's gonna be that big of a view change. Yeah, so overall I would still recommend the 2, 14 and 31. 23 and 26, generally it might lose out in the resale market because it has the parapet balcony, and on top of that, the views is not that fantastic lah. Alright, so now I'm going to be doing a price gap analysis for this layout type. So starting off, we have Lentor Mansions 904 square feet. This is at 1.9 million and 2001 PSF starting from. So the highest price transacted is about 2.15 million, 2003 PSF, almost 2004. So when you compare this 904 to Springleaf's 904, right? Springleaf actually managed to get at $110 per square feet cheaper for the lower floors and also $80 per square feet cheaper for the higher floors. So definitely a very good buffer already compared to Lentor Mansion. And you must also remember Lentor Mansion is still a lower rise development as compared to Springleaf, because Springleaf is still a much higher development as compared to Lentor Mansion. And the next one, Lentor Central 915 square feet. Lowest is at 1.8 million at $1,900 per square feet, and then highest at 2.1 million at 2003. So this one, do take note, even though over here I write $90 per square feet higher than the lower floors compared to Springleaf's 926 square feet and 30 PSF cheaper for the higher floors only. You must be wondering, oh wow, then like that, is it the 900 plus for Lentor Central is a super good deal? This is where price gap analysis is not enough, because the next part I'm going to be sharing with you is the deal breaker of why I think Lentor Central's 3-bedroom 915 square feet, right? I don't think it will move well in the resale market, and people, they will prefer the 700 plus square feet units at maybe Mansion and Springleaf over Lentor Central's 915 square feet. So don't worry if you enter at this price, I'm going to show you the main difference. Okay, so right now I'm going to be doing a comparison for the 3-bedroom layouts for the standard types, okay? So first up, let's try to understand why actually Lentor Central's 915 square feet sold for so cheap since it's the same developer. So I think the unit type is generally quite standard, but the only thing missing for me here is the flexi room. If you see the Springleaf 904 and Lentor Mansion 904, they both are smaller and they already have the flexi room. But if you see at Lentor Central, right, even though it's 10 square feet bigger, it doesn't have the flexi room, and you can see they have that very long walkway in front of bedroom 2, and that one they put the aircon latch there instead. So for me, right, I was quite surprised, like, wow, actually the difference is so big. And why would anyone buy Lentor Central's 915 square feet when they can even buy the Lentor Mansion's 786 square feet or Springleaf 786? Because this one, what they have in the layout, right, is exactly the same as the 786 and even the 818. Don't make sense to go for this 915, especially if the price is a lot higher. There's no difference, yeah, because these are all not usable space at all. And on top of that, right, you can see Lentor Central, the width of the living room is 3 meters. So I think that one is still okay because the width is still the same as Lentor Mansion's 3 meter width. But you can see, other than that, right, the kitchen is actually less superior also. So I'm still figuring out where all the space went, because I think a main key factor could be a bigger master bedroom for Lentor Central, that they put more space in there. But other than that, actually the usable space is quite little. Like let's say you see Springleaf, right, they are still able to do a 3.1 meter width for the living room area, and they have a flexi room, and they have a dry and wet kitchen area. So this is definitely very impressive, because for the developer, they purposely put the dry kitchen so that it does create the effect that the dining area, living room area is a lot wider as compared to the Lentor Central's boxed up kitchen area. And Lentor Mansion also adopting a very similar style to Springleaf. But other than that, right, the bigger master room at Lentor Central, I really don't see any advantages of why people would pay same price for Lentor Central. So definitely Springleaf and Lentor Mansion is a much better 3-bedroom layout type. Okay, so now moving on to the 3-bedroom plus. So for this one, right, there's only 4 units. So this is 1023 and 1076 layout types. And the 4 stacks are 11, 19, 27 and 7. So if you can see from the prices here, they're ranging from about 2060 all the way to 2003. And as you can see, the facing premium is also not much as usual. So try to go for stack 7 and 11 for the higher floors, and then stack 19 for the lower floors. And last but not least will be stack 27. So this one, because it's west facing lah, but it has the forest view, so try to go for the higher one. But other than that, right, I really feel that the parapet balcony here would be a very strong differentiating factor. Okay, because stack 11, 19 and 27 all have the parapet balcony. The only one that stands out here is stack 7 without the parapet balcony. So if you think about it, stack 7 for the higher floors definitely will be a very strong unit in the resale market, because you can see for example, if I'm selling a unit at stack 7 in the future, I can say something like, out of all the 3-bedroom premium at Springleaf Residence, actually stack 7 is the only one with unblocked views and also doesn't have the parapet balconies. So definitely I think for stack 7, even though the unit is slightly bigger, you're paying a slightly higher quantum, it is a much more superior layout and facing that will hold its value for years to come. So I think definitely, you see, like when I phrase it like this, wow, 7 like very power, right, you know. So other than that, for stack 19, the higher floors, you can still get the pocket forest view lah. But I mean, to be honest, it's still sandwiched between 2 blocks. So to say a forest view is really just a marketing gimmick lah. Okay, so this is overall the 3 bedrooms here. Okay, so next up, I'm going to be doing this price gap analysis for Lentor Mansion, Lentor Central and Springleaf for this size. So I'm not going to be touching on the 990 and 1012 for Lentor Mansion because the size is a bit different. So I'm just going to be taking the 1023 square feet one. So this is at 2.2 million range, $2,100 per square feet. And then all the way up to 2.4 million at 2370 PSF. So when you compare to Springleaf, right, we are looking at $100 per square feet cheaper for the lower floors, and then for the higher floors is $70 per square feet cheaper. And then now for Lentor Central at 1076 square feet, so surprisingly they also coming in at similar quantum at 2.2 million, 2061 PSF, so definitely one of the lower ones. And you see the quantum at the highest one, 2.578 million and 2003, almost 2004 PSF. So for the lower floors, actually Springleaf is $4 per square feet higher, and for the higher floors is 110 per square feet cheaper for the higher floors. So now let's take a look at the layout and why actually this is such a big difference. Okay, so right now I'm going to be doing the 3-bedroom layout comparison versus Lentor Central and Lentor Mansion. So first up, we have Lentor Central, this 3-bedroom at 1076 square feet. You can already see where is the first problem at. I'm looking for the flexi room. I don't know if you guys can see it. I don't see it, but where else for the similar layout types are at Springleaf and Lentor Mansion, around the same size, right? Both of them have this additional flexi room. So this can act as maybe study room, or maybe for the helper to sleep at, or even an extra storeroom. But for Lentor Central, despite it being 1076 square feet, right, it doesn't have this additional option. So to me, when I look at all this, I totally understand why it is being sold cheaper than Lentor Mansion and Springleaf. But other than that, if I'm a buyer, right, for Lentor Central, I don't see a need to actually go for this bigger 3-bedroom, because there is no additional benefit. Might as well I just go for the normal 3-bedroom or even the compact one, because all don't have flexi anyways. There's nothing superior about this layout. So you see, beyond the numbers and the price gap, you must also look at the layouts. These are all equally important, especially when you're going to be exiting when all these supplies all at the same time. So other than that, right, for Lentor Central, they have the standard kitchen, the yard, WC, household shelter. The main thing is that the width of the dining living room area is at 3 meters. Springleaf one is at 3.1. Other than that, they managed to split the wet and dry kitchen area. So I think the dry kitchen one is really a very good job, because they still give you the kitchen island, and on top of that, it does feel like the living space is a lot wider. So this is what is done also at Lentor Mansion, very similar. But Lentor Mansion, the only thing is that the the kitchen, they never provide the sliding door for enclosable purpose, and also it is at 3-meter width for the living room area. So other than that, if I really see in the resale market, I choose between these 3 units, right, I really wouldn't want to pay same price for Lentor Central simply because they don't have the additional flexi room. But you can let me know in the comment section if you would actually pay cheaper for this. I don't think this one will make sense because I would rather go for the 900 plus square feet ones instead of the 1000 plus, because this one really doesn't give a lot of additional benefit. Okay, maybe they have a bigger master bedroom, but other than that, right, for me, I would prefer a additional flexi room over a bigger master bedroom. Alright, so next time I'm gonna be doing the analysis for the 4-bedroom types at Springleaf Residence. So first things first, you guys remember the pamphlet that the developer sent out. 4 bedrooms starting from 1995 PSF at 2.448 million. To be honest, when I was tabulating all the prices, right, I was thinking, actually, where is the 1995? I didn't see it, you know. Even for the stacks that is, I predicted the worst ones, which is stacks 3 and 6, which is facing the conservation school, right, never clear the building. They also started at 2005 PSF and 2011 PSF. I didn't see the 2.44 million. Maybe this one is priority booking price, I'm not too sure, but I didn't really see the 1995 PSF one. So maybe you guys can let me know. So carrying on to the video, right, you can see basically this only got one layout type, 1227 square feet, and the stacks are stack 3, 6, 15, 22, 35 and 39. So you can see from here, in terms of the premium for the facing, actually this one also not that much. The range is about 2000 PSF all the way to 2003 PSF. And of course, I think like for stack 3 to like say stack 39, the ground floor units, right, definitely there is a significant premium because you haven't cleared the school yet. But the moment you clear the school, actually, to be honest, the mid floor it is even more expensive than the other stacks. So that's why I would say overall the facing premium is not much. And if given a choice, you can see based on my rankings here, try to go for stack 35 higher floors because that is your unique selling point. It's the forest view. I mean, although you get partial west sun, but it's not as bad as the ones facing more of the west side. And then followed by stack 3, 6 and 15 for the higher floors, and then last but not least is 22 and 39 for the lower floors. So out of all the different 4-bedroom types, stack 15 is the only one with the parapet balcony. So that's why I think overall, even though the stack 15 is facing quite far away if you get the higher floor one, but the main part is that it has a parapet balcony. So I think this one is not going to be so ideal in the resale market. Whereas for stack 3 and 6, as long as you clear the school, the setback is going to be very far away from parcel A. So I think those are still worth considering as well. So that's why those are also sold. So other than that, this is the conclusion for the 4-bedroom in terms of the pricing. Okay, so now moving on to the price gap analysis. Same thing here, I'm going to be comparing with Lentor Mansion's 1227, and you can see this is at 2.64 million, 2153 PSF, and then up to a higher range of 2.92 million, 2380 PSF. So when we take the 1227 at Springleaf, you compare to Lentor Mansion, right? Averagely, the lower floors we are looking at 120 PSF cheaper, and also 100 PSF cheaper for the higher floors. So definitely a very good buffer from Lentor Mansion. The next part, Lentor Central. Okay, so the main thing you want to compare is the 1184 because the 1399, to be honest, is closer towards a 5-bedroom type. So for the 1184, you can see they actually come in very cheap at 2.368 million, 2000 PSF, and at higher floors are 2.822 million, 2383 PSF. So when you compare to the 4-bedders at Springleaf, right, actually you actually pay 30 PSF higher for the lower floors and also 30 PSF cheaper for the higher floors. Actually, there's not much difference in terms of pricing from Lentor Central, but of course you need to take note in terms of the view lah. Yeah, but other than that, to be honest, the 1184 square feet and 1227 is about 60 square feet. It's about 40 square feet difference. So later on, I will tell you what is the main difference in terms of the layout. Okay, so same thing here. Now we are looking at the 4 bedrooms for the layout comparison. Lentor Central, over here we are 1184 square feet. So same thing, 3-meter width in terms of the living room area. And then if you look at the master bedroom, actually it's a lot bigger. This is 16 square meters and they have a L-shaped wardrobe, so much bigger. But the main thing they save the space on is actually the smaller balcony space. So that's why Lentor Central 1184 square feet, right, was selling very fast. I think if you see across these three layouts, actually, I think, let's say you take Lentor Mansion for example, the extra bedroom, the extra space, right, the 40 square feet probably went towards the landscape balcony side. Yeah, it's not really in terms of indoor space utilized. But other than that, the layouts are not too far disparity for the 4-bedders. I think the main thing here that stands out for Springleaf is that it has a 3.2 meter width. That's why you feel like when you go to the show flat, it does feel very wide. And on top of that, they still got split the wet and dry kitchen. So this one quite similar towards Lentor Mansion side. But other than that, they are quite similar. I think main thing for this Springleaf one, right, because they can hack down the wall between bedroom 4 and the living room because of the advanced precast system. So that's why you can fully utilize it as a landscape layout. Yeah, but for Lentor Mansion, Lentor Central, all this, I think the difficulty is there. Yeah, you can't really just hack it down so easily. And on top of that, I think there isn't that much of a difference between these three layouts. Yeah, so if you look at the pricing, definitely you have to be more careful if you are looking at the 4-bedders, because I think Lentor Central one provides a very strong alternative. Other than that, if you think about it in terms of the forest view, then that one no competition lah. Then okay, so last but not least, we have finally reached the last bedroom type, the 5 bedrooms. So for this one, we have 3 stacks. This is stack 30, 34 and 38, and then the square feet sizes 1453 and 1475. So in terms of facing premium, there's really not much. So to be honest, I would encourage to go for the forest facing ones. But of course, you must take note for stack 30, you're gonna be getting a lot of west sun. Yeah, but despite that, actually for stack 30, the sales is still pretty good. Other than that, stack 30 and 38, try to go for the higher floors. 34, right, to be honest, is inward facing. Lower floor or higher floor, really not much difference. So just go for as low as possible if you just want to enter a good entry price. Okay, so next up is the price gap analysis for the 5 bedrooms. Lentor Mansion 1485 square feet is bigger, and then you can see it is at 3.2 million quantum, 2156 PSF, and then up to 3.47 million. 2003 PSF. When you compare to Springleaf side, right, it's about 90 PSF cheaper for the lower floors and then 60 PSF cheaper for the higher floors. And definitely the quantum gap is about 200k, is maintaining there. And for Lentor Central 1399 square feet, right, this one quite good because you see the quantum is at 2.786 million, 1009 PSF, and never even touched 2000 yet. And then the highest one is at 3.23 million, 2309 PSF. So when you compare to Springleaf, it is $60 per square feet higher for the lower floors and then $20 per square feet cheaper for the higher floors. Okay, so now we're going to be comparing the 5 bedroom layout comparison. So if I really just take a look across like this, right, to be honest, Lentor Central's 4 bedroom 1399 square feet, because it has a 5.35 meter width landscape layout, I really think this is a superior layout already, because when you look at Springleaf's 5-bedder at 1453 square feet, it really doesn't stand out that much, because you see the living room space is at 3.2 meter width. And honestly, I mean, some people talk about the windows on both sides. If you look at the side plan, right, for the Springleaf 5-bedder, even if the other side, which is the dining area, they have the windows, right, if you look closely, you actually are just facing the other stack directly. If there is another view, like maybe towards the pool side, all this, okay, I think it does make sense to pay for a premium for that kind of like so-called mirror wall. But if it's just facing the other stack, then you're facing someone's like aircon ledge or someone's kitchen, then to me, I don't think it matters that much whether it's a wall or not. So maybe you can let me know in the comment section, do you think this is a much better layout? But for me, when I compare like Springleaf versus Lentor Mansion, really quite similar in terms of layout. And I think both of them, they have a very big balcony space. Of course, Springleaf one slightly smaller and a slightly wider living room area. But if you ask me overall, which one would be a better so-called pick, right? Actually, I really think Lentor Central's this landscape layout is the best one so far, because I think a lot of them also say, oh, you can still hack down the Springleaf bedroom 5 because it's an advanced precast system. So even if we hack it down, right, to be honest, you are paying a much bigger premium. So I think in terms of that, it doesn't really make sense. Might as well you just go for a already done 1399 square feet unit, and the quantum haven't even crossed 3 million for the lower floors. Yeah, so other than that, I mean, Springleaf also does have its strong points for the ones facing the forest. I think definitely you are getting into a very rare layout. Yeah, but other than that, I think in terms of the supply for the Lentor and Springleaf area, 5 bedroom definitely is still the rarer one. Yeah, so I think don't have to worry too much, but I think the 1399 square feet one is still a better layout as compared to the 5 bedders here. Yeah, this is my personal opinion. So what happened, right, for my clients on the booking day itself? So I had 2 clients that managed to secure a unit there. So for client A, he managed to get a unit due to the priority queue. So the brother was staying in one of the condominiums mentioned inside the list. So as a result, my client A could get a priority booking. So on top of that, there was the 1% discount. And for this client was very clear-cut investor. So for that, we were shortlisting the stacks without the parapet balcony, and also was the 3 bedroom ones. Yeah, so overall it was quite clear cut in our strategy, and we were aiming to mid to low floors. So luckily, because of the priority booking, we still managed to secure 1% discount and a good facing unit, and that is not parapet balcony. So this one really for my client, premium facing also, the exit strategy is very secure even within the development already. Whereas for client B, this one more for own stay okay, but of course I think comparing, in the end, the parapet balcony really was something that I think a lot of my clients still feel like it's not the best choice. So that's why in the end my client also still went for the bigger 3 bedroom that doesn't have the parapet balcony. So this one definitely will protect them in terms of exit strategy for years to come, and also this one also managed to meet lower floor kind of range. So overall, I think my clients definitely was very prepared, and shout out to those that reached out to me, hoping to work with you guys in the future. Alright, looking forward to hear from you guys. And what we have coming up, we have Sky at Holland, The Sand, Zion Grand, Penreef, Faber Residences. So for those of you, maybe if you have gotten some value and actually how I prepare my clients for the booking day for Springleaf Residence, you can feel free to reach out to me if you're interested in any of these developments, because for all these developments, I'll be doing the same type of comparison, and to make sure my clients are properly prepared for any launches and to make sure they don't FOMO. Alright, so last but not least, thank you guys for staying throughout the whole video. If I've value added to you in terms of my analysis, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. And also, if you like this kind of analysis, right, you can check out my YouTube channel for other new launches that have done similar type of analysis, and look forward to my upcoming videos because I'll be sharing about all these upcoming launches. And also, my number is 84849302 for those of you that wants a personalized consultation for the upcoming launches, or even any of the purchases, even in the resale market. Do feel free to reach out to me. Alright, looking forward to hear from you guys. Bye.